You're listening to the Nothing But Good podcast, a show that believes you should know where your food comes from, or more specifically, who it comes from. Each week, we bring you new interviews with the makers and founders of the brands you love so you can see how they came to be and what makes them different. We focus on telling the stories of emerging brands and brands who are committed to using better for you ingredients in the snacks they create. Every episode of the Nothing But Good podcast is brought to you by O Goodie Box, a snack box subscription service that sends healthier snacks directly to your home or office so that you have the fuel you need to make your greatest impact each day. Order your first box at ogoodiebox.com and use code PODCAST for 15% off your first order. That's OGoodie, OHGOODIE box.com and code PODCAST for 15% off your first order. Now grab a snack and let's get to today's show. Syndey, thank you so much for being on the show. For everyone listening and watching, would you mind introducing yourself and your business?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm Syndey Chasin, founder of Chasin Dreams Farm, and we are a snack brand creatively crafting the earth's most humble ingredients. So we believe that delicious and indulgent snacks are packed full of not so good ingredients, and on the other side of things, better for you snacks are perceived as boring, bland, and lacking taste appeal. So we're creating better for you, more fun for you clean label snacks, taking a page out of conventional foods playbook, making it really high energy, vibrant, and fun, but keeping a completely clean ingredient deck. And our product that we have now is a popped sorghum snack, which looks like super tiny popcorn, but is entirely corn-free and made with US grown sorghum, which is an amazing US grown ancient grain that's never been genetically modified, naturally gluten-free, and super sustainable.
So interesting. And when I first came across you guys, I was like, oh, it's like the world's tiniest popcorn. But then I started looking into it and reading about you guys, and I have never heard of sorghum before. So, how did you stumble across this amazing ingredient?
Yeah, so I've known about sorghum my entire life. I grew up gluten-free since I was 7 years old, well before gluten-free is what gluten-free is today. So, I mean, it was really like my mother and I in the kitchen making flour blends using rice flour and tapioca starch and sorghum flour, etc. So I've known about alternative ingredients my whole life, but I also grew up on a farm, which is Chasin Dreams Farm, which is the Chasin family farm. And while we did not grow grain, surrounding farmers did. So they were switching a lot of their corn and soy fields to sorghum fields that better used resources, because even in a drought season, farmers wouldn't have to irrigate their fields.
Interesting. And so, what made your family go gluten free when you were 7 years old?
Yeah, interesting. I got tested for celiac disease much earlier than most people were getting tested for celiac disease, and had like a super alternative doctor chiropractor type guy that was like, have you heard of celiac disease? And I actually originally got tested because I had horrible spring allergies, and growing up on the farm was allergic to everything on the farm. So they
Oh
would test.
no.
I got out of every possible chore in the barn because I'd have an allergy attack every time I stepped foot into the barn. But yeah, so they were testing me for all different things, and came back positive for celiac disease, which pretty much means I cannot process gluten, and started living a gluten-free diet right after that test. And while I still have plenty of spring allergies and, allergies to horses and hay, etc., it is nowhere near as bad since I cut out gluten.
Wow. That's incredible. And so what was it? Did you kind of always know then that you wanted to get involved in the food industry? Like, how did you go from growing up on the farm, getting diagnosed with celiac disease, and then now you've started your own food company?
Yeah, no, I had no idea this is where I was going to be. I always say, like, any entrepreneur that was like, no, I thought this was going to be what it was going to be my whole life, is lying. We
Yes.
all end up in interesting places because of other things. But I so like kind of like taking it back to childhood just to like bring it up to present day. I've always had a weird obsession with manufacturing. So my family, we did a trip to New England when I was like maybe like 9 or 10, and my mother was like, where do you want to visit when we're up here? And people, my sister's like, a mountain, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I was like, I want to go to the Cabot Cheese Factory, the Ben and Jerry's factory, the Lake Champlain Chocolate Factory, and just I've always been fascinated with how food's made. I'd be lying to tell you if little 9-year-old me was like, I'm gonna create food one day, but it's just definitely like been part of me. But when I was graduating college, I entered an ideas competition, pretty much how I could change lives and better the economy, and entered this concept for a food platform using sorghum grain, this amazing underutilized ingredient, and kind of fell into doing that, was applying for corporate jobs, was so put off by the idea of going into corporate world that
Yeah.
I kind of went on my merry way, and it started as a farmer's market idea and has become a lot bigger than that.
What? How long ago was that?
Oh, so there's like multiple start dates in our Chasin Dreams Farm journey, because I started working on the project for 2 years before properly starting, and I was living in the UK.
Oh,
So I
wow.
actually started the development of our popped sorghum line in the UK and had an enterprise fellowship with the Royal Society of Edinburgh, which like is almost like a little mini MBA for your idea. So I did that, and then when that program finished, I moved back to the US and properly started developing, like really building the business in November 2018.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So you've been like fully in this for like 4 years now,
5 years. Yeah,
5 years.
yeah,
Wow. Crazy. And so what has the journey been like? You had this idea and you've never been like in the corporate world as an employee.
never. I did an internship once.
I love it. So like I'm just so intrigued by all of it because it's like, so are you just like self-taught? Like how did you go into just this idea to now you're manufacturing, you're sourcing the product, you're finding packaging. I know you guys just did a rebrand, all of the things.
Yeah, so am I self-taught? Yes.
Yeah.
Like I like I knew nothing going into it, and like I feel like I obviously know a lot of things now, but in hindsight, like I'm kind of grateful that I didn't know a lot of things going into it, and I went into it naive and just said yes and took on whatever was coming at me. And I think that's like I actually can credit a lot of success to that. Not being jaded or anything. Now I'm like, oh my god, I would have never started this, even though I'm so so grateful that I have started it and I love what I do. Um, but yeah, I mean, had so many people, and still to this day have so many people help me and mentor me and walk me through things. And at the very beginning, it was, where do I even start? Like, what does it mean to have a business? And then, those were like super broad mentors, anyone who touched the business world. And now it's a lot more niche, people that I work with that I'm like, I specifically need mentoring and help figuring out third-party logistics companies that properly integrate with Amazon and Shopify, super
Wow.
detailed things. But I've mentored and helped a lot of people that are just starting out on their journey now, and I think what's I've found to work and encourage other people to do is chunk it down and work backwards. So I think it's super overwhelming to start and be like, where do I even begin? But if I say, I want to be in goody, any
Right.
example, in 6 months' time, what do they need? Okay, what's the step before that? And what's the step before that? And what's the step before that? And really breaking it down to get you to present moment. And that kind of is what I've always done, whether it's just simply like, I need a recipe to take. What is the step before? What's the step before? So, yeah.
I love that. I love that advice though, because I think like sometimes like when you're trying to just start and you're looking at the finish line, it can seem so overwhelming and so impossible. And it's like, no, it's impossible to go from point A to point B like that. But
Yeah.
it is very plausible if you can just break it down into the next right step, the next small step. So I think that's really
Yeah.
nice.
And we still do it. Like when we're like looking at our revenue targets and I don't know, like our optimizing margins and things that are far more complicated now, it's like you look at it and I'm like, oh my God, even looking into 2023 and 2024, I'm like, how in God's name are we going to get there? And then we're like, okay, but this has to happen before that. And then it's just like, we have a month by month plan of how we're going to get there. And it's not, at times it's overwhelming, but like it's totally manageable where we're just putting our, left foot in front of our right.
I love that so much. And talking about the future, I know you're currently working with sorghum right now. Are you looking at creating other lines? The way you introduced the company, it kind of sounded more like a comprehensive program, not just a one product, multiple flavors program. So, what's next
Yes.
for Chasin Dreams?
Yeah, so we're working on a few different concepts just now. We want to stay in snacking. I would love to be able to incorporate sorghum into what we're doing. I think sorghum actually has a real opportunity to help with the future of food security because of, how resourceful it is. But what's interesting in how we've shifted our brand messaging is that we are now a brand that we can do more than that. We are not just known for sorghum. We are known for innovation and creativity and empowering consumers. And oh, by the way, we're using this amazing grain. So in making that shift and change, we have a far better platform that we can do anything. We will stay true to corn-free, gluten-free, non-GMO for forever. But we have a lot more flexibility in where we innovate.
I love that so much. And with sorghum, just really quick, just to highlight it again, I know you said it doesn't need to be, is it irrigated?
Yeah.
How is that? How is that possible? And then just quickly, can you just wrap up with the health benefits of that specific product, just to kind of drive it home for our listeners?
Yeah. So sorghum, just fascinating crop. Like I went and visited our farmers and the ground was like cracking and dry and there's these beautiful sorghum plants coming out of it. Super technically, it's got a fibrous root system, so it mines groundwater a lot better than other plants. And then it's got super waxy leaves that help retain the water in the plant as well. But it's regeneratively farmed, so it actually captures harmful airborne carbon and stores it safely in the soil. And then, like you said, drought resilient, and doesn't require irrigation to grow. Health benefits of the grain: it's a super great, well-rounded grain, protein, fiber, lots of micronutrients. So great whole grain, sustainable option to replace, highly modified grains such as corn, wheat, etc.
I love that. And just kind of wrapping up here, I was curious, is your family's farm still in business? Is it still operating to this day?
It's not. It has since been sold, but
Okay.
I feel like I have to like just paint the picture for listeners. This was not a grain farm. My mother uh, raised and bred Shetland ponies. So we had at one point in time 23 ponies that were like maybe 2 feet tall. So a very quirky, magical place.
I love that. I feel like it sounds like a magical place to grow up. And I feel like with your branding and your messaging, you've kind of incorporated some of that magic just into the language that you use. It's a very happy, bright brand. And I love that about you guys. I think it's your brand and your personality just kind of match so beautifully.
I appreciate you saying that because I don't think our brand has always done that. And it's very hard as a brand owner who's
Yeah.
writing a lot of the copy to write something that's not super authentic to who we are. And now I feel like it is me, it is my upbringing, it is the whole Chasin family. And, being authentic, I think it resonates with a lot of people.
I think so too. It certainly did with us. We're so glad that you're in Oh Goody Box and can't wait to see what's next for you guys. That'll be kind of the end. So where, of course, listeners can find your product in Oh Goody Box, but if they wanted to just order directly or follow you guys on Instagram, where would they find you?
Yep. On TikTok and Instagram at Chasin Dreams Farm. Lots of funny, quirky content there. And on our site, chasindreamsfarm.com.
I love it. Now, you mentioned TikTok, and I was not expecting TikTok. Has TikTok been a good platform for you guys?
Honestly, we've not cracked the code for TikTok.
Okay.
But
Okay.
a lot of our content we design for TikTok and then put it on Reels. So I don't know if you've seen, our intern does tiny movies or tiny musicals where she does. Have you seen it?
I've seen like the tiny things. I haven't seen the musicals themselves yet. No.
So pretty much the concept is that it's a tiny movie or a tiny musical where she's acting out like almost like Spark Notes of like what happened in the musical, and it's like maybe 20 seconds long, but she acts it out with our pops, and it's totally ridiculous and so out there, but wildly entertaining. So you have to check out her tiny movies and musicals.
I'm gonna go check it out right now. Well, gosh, thank you so much. Not only for being on the show, but for your partnership, and we'll have links to everything in the show notes. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Nothing But Good podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and if you did, we'd be so grateful if you could leave a review and share this episode with your friends. Before you go, make sure you're subscribed so that you are always the first to know when a new episode is released. And don't forget to follow at OGoodyBox on Instagram so you can get an even deeper look into how we decide which products get placed in our snack boxes. Last but not least, visit ogoodybox.com and make sure you use promo code PODCAST for 15% off your first box. Links to everything are in today's show notes. Until next time, happy snacking.